What up guys, it's Jordan here and welcome back to the MDL Pro Tip series powered by Mountain Dew Game Fuel. And this time we're going to be talking about mistakes to avoid on CT side train. Now, I'm going to jump right into it. We're going to start with the IV and move all the way to B and discuss things I want you to try to not do or things to be aware of. Sometimes, I kind of get in between those two things on CT side. Now, one thing to remember, both sides of the map spawns are massive. Certain teams over their years in pro scene have even played certain amount of their players by spawn, right? They still do it in like the outside players case, and I'll talk about that in a few moments. But first up, we're going to talk about Ivy. All right, first things first with Ivy. Something that's seemingly small but can be massive as an Ivy player is pathing. A lot of times when I see amateurs come into Ivy and they want to throw an aid and begin the round, even if they have good intentions, they kind of just hover along this wall. It's really important to realize that no matter how good your T mid players are, if the best T spawn player, terrorist player, has a good chance of getting out middle or wants to try to get out middle rather, he could jump out like this and hit a good B hop and get here and potentially shoot you no matter how good your CT guys are at coming out to ladder. All right. So coming up Ivy wall, you want to make sure that you're always conscious of the pathing you're at. And if you're holding this angle, it's got to be for a reason. Maybe you have an op and you want to hold right here and you think this is a play they do. Or pretty much that's it. Scout maybe on like a second round, you want to tag a guy and hide. That's a good spot because you can kind of play off this angle. Other than that, you don't really want to get caught in this path for any other reason. Next up, everything to do with Ivy is making sure you're using your nades before they do anything of substance, right? Meaning before they're already out on you and taking shots at you. And even if you're here, they can get out wide and take shots at you, right? So not using your molly early is the second mistake I see people do. If you want to use your molly effectively, it's normally one of two things. One is the sandwich molly right here, and two is the deep Ivy molly right here. Both these mollies are great. You just got to realize what's being thrown by your teammates to know which you should throw. If your teammates coming out mid, which are throwing the right nades, which I'll show you guys in a minute, then you shouldn't necessarily prioritize this one if, say, you only have two mollies outside. Sometimes it's good to throw this molly and just kind of forget about Ivy in the beginning and be ready to help these angles while the rush could be happening. And then if they're rushing Ivy, you'll hear them get hit by the molly or they'll be charging in this case, so you can kind of ignore it. If you want to throw this molly and just still ignore Ivy, that's a viable option too. A lot of times I would say, like, if we only had two mollies outside, if we were like low buying, almost every time I'm going to want to throw this molly. If it's a full buy on my team, I like throwing this one just because then I'm like confident taking this fight. And normally if you have two teammate guys and they see nades come over, one person will like come over here and throw this molly. Better than that. Last thing I want to say to Ivy players is a lot of times, like, there's a lot of ways you can play it. You can get aggressive, passive, whatever. But a lot of Ivy players feel the need to be in or around Ivy the whole round. One thing I want to see more amateurs do is realize that they don't need to be in Ivy the whole round. I know some guys play here. This is great. Play back 6 and just tell people on your team that they can get to the Ivy cubby, right, which is right there, because this could be dangerous for your E-box guys. Play back 5, right? I love this. I love this setup when you take like ladder or team mid control, and maybe you have like a CT in here and one here, and then you're here. You just got to let people know, hey, this is how we're playing, because if this guy beats you around this angle, he could shoot your guys at this, right? So you could. It's got to be a setup where everyone's aware. But these are great setups because if they don't use Ivy, right, or even if they do, if they start splitting out team mid, you could do something where like you smoke this off, and you just help your team mid guys and be like, hey guys, they can go backside. So now your Z rotator realizes he needs to come pick up the back lanes or something. But like in a round where you think maybe just one is Ivy and 3 or 4 are going to be splitting between mid and ladder, it's a great way to help your mid guys by just giving up Ivy. And most importantly here, not feeling you need to be around Ivy just to be accountable for it. Even in spots such as this, you could have an AWP and your team could be in ladder, and you can just hold a spot like this with your AWP, not exposed to team mid. Your team has maybe a double ladder setup without getting too into setups. Love to see the deep Ivy play. Next thing, and maybe the most important aspect of this video, is the mid players. Now I'm going to kind of lump the Z, mid, ladder guys all into one and just talk about the key nades you need. These guys are essentially the pillar of your CT side. Them knowing how to use nades and then a couple small details to go with it are the guys that basically set up the framework for your CT side in terms of a default setup if you're not playing aggressive Ivy or if you're not playing aggressive inside. All right. So first things first, not throwing pre-nades properly. All right. You got to make sure. I see it so often where people try to throw a molly and they run forward down this lane here, or they try to throw a molly like this and they bank it, and it might work a little bit, but it goes too deep. And if they're rushing mid, people can kind of jump past it and avoid it and get out. That molly can have a place, the deep one. You got to realize that that's only if your team's expecting it to not hit here and you guys all avoid the peak, and it's just not as good for the aggressive play. If you want to have 3 come out Z and your opper post here, you want to be throwing the Molotov like this. You strafe to the right so you're out of the way of the opper, and you can hold this even if you don't have an opper. You aim at the bottom right of this railing right here, and when you cut this pole out of view, it's the right lineup like that, so it'll bank off both the wall on the train and perfectly cover team mid, forcing them to have to smoke it out, and then making it so if they do smoke it out, now it's perfect, because if they start coming out team mid, you could fight the guys funneling through the smoke. And normally the hard thing about fighting this angle team mid is even if a guy's jumping out on you and you start spraying, they'll get by that angle and someone can just slide behind them and trade, right? So it's these nades have multiple benefits to them that kind of add layers to why you want to make sure you're throwing things right. Smoke is now thrown the same way. If you want to smoke team mid off early, because maybe you only have 1 Molotov, right? But you have a full set of smokes, throwing the same smoke, bottom right of the railing, you cut off the brown port there, double banks, and it'll just sit team mid. That's really nice because even if they're rushing or if they're not, however you want to play this, you can kind of just come out here and hold these angles more confidently. Your team mid angle, your second guy behind you can kind of wait. He can throw a flash if he wants. And then you guys can both kind of scale comfortably. You can kind of get down here, and you guys can both be E-box together. Now, that's not saying that's the perfect setup, but the smoke is the key thing there because it gives you space and is the right way to throw it. Next up, the flashes. Make sure, again, you're throwing the flash, not where you're just running down, but where you step. I noticed kind of the same place for flashes and nades is like I kind of look at this second line right here. I see 1, 2, 3 kind of right in my eyes. There's obviously the 4th, but, you know, just the ones in my vision. I kind of aim at this middle line. I throw a flash like that normally, even a little shallower sometimes. And these flashes are great just to blind the opper in the beginning of the round. I like that second one I threw because if the opper tries to get aggressive, it hits them. And it's just kind of a feel thing. You go in a server and practice, just like I'm doing now with the trajectory. You can find another one of my videos will show you on trajectory. So just a little step like that. If you want to throw a Molotov deep, it's the same way as well. Second line, kind of a little deeper for the Molotov, and you can just run through it, and that should go all the way deep into team mid. This is good if you want to stop. I gotta turn on God mode. So that's a good way to make sure you're getting the nades off properly. All these nades are very key, and this is the order. The next issue is the order in which you throw them. If you're going to throw a molly or a smoke plus a flash, it's always the best spawn needs to Molotov because you want to make sure you're abusing their best spawn and who's trying to get out mid fast. So the best spawn here, step to the right, smoke, second spawn, flashing always. If it's the opper, you can make it the third spawn. If the opper is your second spawn, you can make it the third spawn who's still in the flash, and the opper, you want him posting. So if your opper is the best spawn, a lot of times you just let him post right away, and then the second spawn is the molly, and the third spawn is the flash. It's fine to do that because as long as you have an opper post at this angle, you're not as scared. You're stepping across, so this is your opper angle. You're always stepping across it with the flash, flashing. First, second, or third spawn. You're going to do that flash always if the opper, you know what I mean, if the opper's first. So second spawn is always in that flash if the molly is first, which should be the case if he's not the opper. Molly, and then you step right here, your teammate flashes, boom, you guys can cross. Now, brings me to my next point. Trying to get ladder room control without the best spawn. So if you do any one of these things where you're throwing nades, you cannot beat the best T-spawn to ladder. It's a fact. Try it with your friends. If the best spawn gets down ladder fast, he will be here by the time, at least here, down ladder with his gun out, by the time you try to enter the ladder room. If you want to take that fight, be my guest. You got a mag 7 in your hand, you're feeling like JW, go for it. But if you're throwing these flash protocols, you shouldn't be trying to get ladder. If you're trying to go ladder fast, realize couple things. 1, you could get off by this spawn. 2, you should probably do like some kind of B-hop around this corner to avoid getting off. And 3, tell your team you're probably not throwing any flashes to teammate. If you wanted, you could maybe throw like an on-the-fly molly, but like that's a lot of time where you could be dying, having to run at this angle, and you might miss the molly because you're running sideways. It's best just say, hey, I'm taking ladder spawn. And also, look at the other team's money, what you think they have, because if they don't have op money, then it makes more sense to try to play like this because you're not worried about getting opt, and your team's nades will do more damage because they're probably jumping out teammate and not stopping if they do rush. All right. Last thing I kind of wanted to just touch on is two things. Outside, guys, I see this mistake all the time. Your opera leaves you right away, right? And it's just 3 people outside. If you have 3 people outside and your opera leaves you and you can't help, you don't need to play aggressive. Just because you were here in the beginning of the round, you don't need to stay here, just like your Ivy player. If you're just here with a rifle and here with a rifle, your nades are only going to last so long. One of you probably already used a smoke. If your opera rotator is smart, op rotator, always use your smoke for ladder. If he's smart, he'll throw that for you, and you have the first 15 seconds of being able to play behind these smokes outside. But if you're 3 people outside, meaning Ivy, mid, ladder, which is normally standard when your opera leaves, don't stay here beyond that first smoke. Start scaling back and play smarter. Even though you might not be able to get as many kills from back here, what you could do is, if you do have 1 smoke left after your opera leaves, maybe you can get a kill on the running out ladder. You can kind of smoke, play defensive, and find another way to get another kill right here. And now you allow time for your teammates to rotate, and you can actually win the round. If you go 1 for 1 out here, it's not doing anything. Your opera's going to be rotating, and the T's are going to be Molotoving Z and whatnot. So this is essentially it. Only play aggressive outside for 2 reasons. 1, your best spawn took ladder control in the beginning of the round. Or 2, you have 4 outside, meaning the opera stays. So if the opera stays right here, then be my guest, play a rifler here and a rifler here, or double E-box or double teammate or whatever. And if you are going to play aggressive, guys, please know these flashes. Quick tidbit, I wasn't going to add this. I keep sprinkling more on. This video is going to go longer than I wanted. If you're playing in a spot like sandwich, always know your flashes that can go team-mid. You don't want to have to peek to throw flashes. So bank a flash off the far corner will go in team-mid. You have to make sure you're at the right angle. I'm not throwing it right. I haven't done these in a while. And honestly, I don't even throw that one a lot. I try to add it on the fly, but you can see what not doing it with practice shows you. This is the flash I use the most. I just go up the ladder a little bit, aim at the top of that line. And this is a good one that banks in team-mid. I know if I need to escape and they're mauling me, I'll come up here, throw this flash. Right when it banks once, I can kind of hit a little jump and get out right there. And I normally can avoid the opper because he'll get hit by the flash. And I kind of stay tight to this angle and jump away. Same as like if you're stuck like E-box and you want to blind the guy ladder. I know like I could stand up here, and if it's smoked out ladder and it's fading, I know I kind of have to aim at the arch of this thing right here, right? So I know if I'm standing... Great nade usage this video. And the smoke is fading, but I want to flash a guy on ladder before I fall. I'll kind of just aim at the top of the arch, and I know it's going to hit the wall or go straight in, depending on what angle I'm standing at, you know? And I could then just, like, leave more confidently than just, like, throwing a flash like this, and it kicks the wrong way, and he doesn't get blind, and, you know. It's the little things that can go a long way. All right. Last but not least, those flash points, they didn't look as pretty as I wanted them to, but my point is try to know flashes from your position so you could always back out if you need to. Going inside, a couple of 3 points for inside. Not having the anti-rush plan, using the same plan every time, and then always playing close versus realizing, just like Ivy, you could play passive. So not having an anti-rush plan, what does that mean? You play close, you're holding an angle like this, great, or you're playing here, and they start rushing, and you start getting flustered. You fumble nades, and you go here, and what do I do? Create a plan that you're comfortable with. Yes, okay, throw them always fine. Realize they might put it out and throw a flash, so what's your next plan? If they flash, you're just going to eat it, that's fine. Stay right here. What happens if they wait your molly out, right? Come up with a plan. I'm going to smoke my molly out before it runs out, and then I'm going to fall back holding upper. I'm going to fall back here as they're rushing. I'm going to molly. Boom, pretend the smoke's not there. I'm going to molly, backpedal with the molly. Even if they smoke it out, I'm just going to backpedal and throw a flash like this, and then fight from this angle, right? Come up with a plan. Secondly, don't use the same plan every time. If they know that they can just bait out your molly every time, they're going to do that and then just wait and then re-exec and so by dropping. So what I like to do is I'll throw the molly instantly when I see them come in her the first couple times, and then the third time they do it, I won't throw the molly right away, and I'll kind of play the odds, and I'll just kind of hold an angle like this, and then I'll hold the molly out. And if they want to explode on me, I'll throw the molly, and I have a different reaction this time with a different plan. Now they're kind of stuck there, and I can reposition maybe to this angle, and you can give them different looks so that they don't always know exactly how you're going to react when they rush. And last but not least, guys, don't feel like you need to be here or here around. Yes, you could mix this up a lot. You could play here, you play here, you play here, but there's 15 rounds to a half. Realize that you have to mix it up, and sometimes it's okay to simply give the sight. And with a rifler, play a spot like this. And right when they come in, maybe throw a smoke out. start backpedaling. And this is not even fully what I'm talking about. I mean more like this probably, right? Retake, where sometimes you're on the ladder, you're doing this, you're dump spotting here, you see smokes come down from back there, you throw the molly here, and you just kind of play these angles for the retake, see if you can get a kill when they cross or something, all right? You don't need to play the same way at these spots every round. Remember to mix it up, guys. I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, because I know I kind of jumped around on the outside topics a bit, feel free to leave a question in the comments. I'll try to answer, and leave a like and a heart and all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this. See you in the next one.